Hari Om. Hari Om, everyone
Yeah.
who I didn't say Hari Om to before.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Mama. Okay, so let's begin. We'll begin with prayer. Om. Om. यन्माया वशवर्ति विश्वमखिलम् ब्रह्मादिदेवासुरा यत्तत्त्वादमृषैव भाति सकलम् रज्जौ यथा हिर्भ्रमः यत्पादप्लवमेकमेव हि भवाम्बोधे स्थितिर्षावधाम् वन्देऽहं तमशेषकारणपरम् रामाख्यमीशं हरिम् शान्तं शाश्वतमप्रमेयमनघम् निर्वाणशान्तिप्रदम् ब्रह्मा शम्भुपणीन्द्रसेव्यमनिशम् वेदान्तवेद्यं विभुम् रामाख्यं जगदीश्वरं सुरगुरुं मायामनुष्यं हरिं वन्देऽहं करुणाकरं रघुवरं भूपालचूडामणिम् नान्यास्पृहा रघुपते हृदये स्मदीये सत्यं वदामि च भवानखिलान्तरात्मा भक्तिं प्रयच्छ रघुपुङ्गव निर्भरामि कामादिदोषरहितं कुरु मानसं च अतुलितबलधामं हेमशैलापदेहम् दनुजवनकृशानुं ज्ञानिनामग्रगण्यम् सकलगुणनिधानं वानराणामधीशम् रघुपतिप्रियभक्तं वातजातं नमामि रघुपतिप्रियभक्तं वातजातं नमामि हरिः ओम्। Hari Om, everyone. We are fast approaching the culmination of this part of our journey. In the next, by next week, we may actually enter into the last part of Sundarkand, means Hanumanji's stories and glories in Sundarkand. Last week, we had entered into that section looking at Hanumanji now being placed into an uncomfortable situation. And we saw quite a few life lessons to be taught from that prasanga. We saw that certain situations may arise in life where we wonder, how have I been placed in a situation like this? How have I found myself in such a circumstance? Or why is it that my prarabdha has placed me in circumstances with other such characters? So we saw from Hanumanji's example last week many lessons which we can learn. The first and most important is that when placed in such circumstances, our primary stance must be uphold dharma. No matter what comes in any circumstance, stick to your dharma. Just because others may be around who are willing to bend their heads to Ishanatraya, who are willing to compromise their principles for the gain of wealth or for the fulfillment of desires, you must not fall prey to this also. Our artha and kama must always be guided by moksha. Sorry, our artha and kama must always be guided by dharma. And this is the only way that it will lead to moksha. These four purusharthas we know: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Once is our desires and whatever we desire to attain in life, or our artha, whatever possessions and wealth we are attempting to accrue. These kamas and artha must be influenced by dharma. They must be procured through dharmic means. And this is the only way that these two, utilizing the third dharma, will lead to moksha. So Hanumanji taught us, standing there even in the court of Ravana. He could have easily succumbed. Hanumanji was very strong. They had already seen his might in killing even one of Ravana's sons already. You know, Hanumanji could have easily offered himself to Ravana and said, I can help your kingdom a lot. Ravana would have loved to have such a strong one with him. He could have sold out and remained there in the city of gold. But Hanumanji did not do this. He stood there, he stood for Dharma, and he triumphed over the situation. So this is first lesson that we learn from Hanumanji. Second, even while upholding Dharma, if you can uplift even the opposing side who is standing for adharma, you have to try your best. Hanumanji tried in so many ways to convince Ravana. He gave him so much good counsel to come back on the path of dharma, return Sitama, and end this enmity with the Lord of the universe. Whether this advice falls on deaf ears or not is not our concern. Our job is to do our best. And our job is, if we can impart good counsel even to someone who is opposing us, we must try. So, second thing we learned from Hanumanji. Third, have faith. Means in the midst of this situation, delays may come, diversions may come, and we wonder, Bhagwan, I'm trying to stand for dharma, but you're making it so difficult for me. Sometimes we may want to give up. Bhagwan says, make your mind quiet. Have some faith. Shraddhatsva somya. It's said in Chandogya Upanishad. With that faith, mind can become quiet enough to see that these delays are only meant to serve another purpose. They're meant to put circumstances in position so that everyone who's meant to benefit from that situation can find themselves there. Delays and diversions are not always something negative. They're part of the master plan at the end of it. And if we can make our minds quiet enough to have faith in Bhagwan, to recognize His grace, even when it presents to us in the most unassuming of ways. In a friendship with Vibhishana, the most unlikely ally, means the enemy king's brother comes to become an ally through this situation. The most unassuming ways, like a conversation overheard where Hanumanji was in that tree and he heard Trijata speaking to the other demonesses. Pristine instructions given indirectly, but mind was quiet enough to recognize it. Or even having your tail lit on fire. Even this is the grace of the Lord. Means Hanumanji was able to find a means to achieving his end through this. Only when we have faith in the Lord, we can see the substratum behind these type of unpredictable situations in which we think, how could the Lord possibly be acting through this? When mind is quiet, we can recognize these signs. So, three things we see here. Primary stance, when faced with these circumstances, uphold dharma. Second, take others along with you if you can. Help to uplift even the opposing side to dharma if you can. And third, have faith in the Lord that everything will unfold as it should. What's the fourth and final lesson that we saw last week? Have some fun also. We saw Hanumanji enjoying insulting Ravana back just as quickly as Ravana gave him, he gave back also. Means you stand for Dharma and you have some fun in your spiritual path also. This is something I always admire with Swami Prakashananji, always laughing, always making some joke. Means just because we are sadhakas of spirituality does not mean we have to hold ourselves so strictly all of the time. We are Ananda Swarupa. We are the embodiments of joy. Enjoy yourself along that spiritual journey. Nothing is wrong with laughing, also. See, if we don't learn to laugh in life, then by force, we will learn to cry. So learn to laugh at ourselves. Anyway, everyone else is going to laugh, so we might as well learn to laugh at ourselves also. Even Puja Gurudev has said once, he said, the day you have your first good laugh at yourself, that's the day you start to grow up. Because it takes a certain maturity to laugh at yourself. It takes a certain maturity to not be affronted when others laugh at you also in that circumstance. When we learn that healthy sense of humor, Puja Gurudev says that's when we begin to grow. Because if you can't laugh at yourself, it means that you're holding yourself too strictly in that circumstance and you're not allowing yourself to move past it. When you can laugh a bit, you can say, so what? I did something wrong. It's okay. I forgive myself, but I learn I'm going to do better next time. That's all. And that way I don't draw myself down by the situation. So we learned from Hanumanji also a healthy dosage of laughter. Now, where are we? So this much we saw up until last week. Now in this prasanga, Hanumanji is standing there in Ravana's court, his tail set ablaze, and he's bound now and paraded throughout Lanka, all through the city. It is said that the Rakshasi citizens, they thronged together to see this spectacle. They kicked Hanumanji, they threw things at him, they jeered condescending words, making fun of him as he proceeded along the streets. Next lesson quickly comes that in life, people will treat us in all different ways, depending on their character. This does not reflect who you are. People will say things, they will shout things, you cannot stop them. This is Kali Yuga. This is pathognomonic of this yuga, actually, that most of what you hear out there will be half truths or whole lies. These things, we cannot let them affect us. Sant Tulsidas ji in Uttarkand, so this part of Uttarkand I wanted to share today. In Uttarkand, Tulsidas ji shares the lakshanas of Kali Yuga, of what this age of Kali will actually be like. There's a conversation where Garudji speaks about all of the ages that he has lived through and how many times he's seen Kali Yuga and the way of the character of Kali Yuga itself. Classic point is made here. So I'll share some of this. So it said, I won't, it's so much, I won't sing Dohas and Chaupais, but I'll give excerpts from parts of it. See how pristinely back thousands of years ago, the mind of the Mahatmas, that they were able to code down exactly what Kali Yuga is right now. See the similarities. There, in our Shastra, it's given, in the age of Kali, no one follows the duties of one's caste, means many will abandon their castes. The four ashramas or stages of life also disappear. We see now even that 80 years old people want to have their third and fourth marriage when you should be going from Vanaprasthan to Sannyasa, Grihastha they want to enter again. Men and women take delight in opposing Vedas. We see many times now, even through logic, people want to debate as to why these things are untrue and why we should live the way we want to live and not let Shastra dictate to us how we should live. So many people are there, intelligent also, but they fight against Shastra. They say certain men and women will take delight in opposing Vedas. It will lose the sanctity that was given to it in the earlier ages. The kings torment their subjects. Well, our world leaders, we don't need to say too much there. We understand what's happening in Kali Yuga. People have lost their respect for Vedas. He alone is considered as clever who robs another of his wealth. He who puts up false appearances is an ardent follower of established usage. He who is given to lying and is clever at cutting jokes is spoken of as a man of greatness in Kali age. They who are maleficent in conduct are held in great esteem. They alone are worthy of honor. Even so, they who blabber in thought, word, and deed are great orators in the age of Kali. How many YouTube videos are there? Everybody has their own channel now. Everyone is a great orator. This is Kali Yuga. Married ladies have no ornaments on their person, while widows adorn themselves in the latest style. The spiritual guide who robs his disciples of money but fails to rid him of his sorrows is cast into terrible hell. But this is seen in Kali Yuga. Parents call their children and teach them the religion of worldly knowledge, of how to fulfill their insatiable desires only. This we see rampantly all over the world. They alone who are covetous of another's wife and are clever at wiles and steeped in delusion, malice, and worldly attachment are enlightened men in Kali. Such are the practices that I have seen, Garuda says. Men drive out well born and virtuous wives and bring home some servant girl, casting to the wind all good values. Sons respect their fathers and mothers only so long as they have not seen the face of their wives. Now, this all, of course, there are exceptions amongst us who attend satsang, so we'll hope that we don't fall into these. But I'll explain how also. But we have to admit, in this age of Kali, so much of this is seen. Look how perfectly it was quoted even thousands of years ago in our scriptures. This is the foresight of our saints. It says, listen, Garuda, Lord of the winged creatures, in the age of Kali, duplicity, perversity, hypocrisy, malice, heresy, pride, infatuation, these pervade the whole universe. Women have no ornaments except their tresses, and they have an enormous appetite while remaining unsatiated. Though miserable for want of money, they are rich in attachments of various kinds. Though hankering after happiness, they love not piety. Though they are poor in wits, their mind is hard and knows no tenderness. As for men, they are tormented with disease and find no enjoyment anywhere. They are conceited and contend with others without any rhyme or reason. Men's life becomes short, yet in their pride, they reckon on surviving to the end of creation. Look at how similar this is to what we see in the world today. And Tulsidas ji, in writing all of this, there's this phrase that we say, you hit the nail on the head. Means you have got it directly on point. Tulsidas ji has described Kali Yuga just as we see it now in this age. But it does not mean that we are all subjected to this. This is the beauty of this point also. And few dohas after that, after 100, the point that's made is, and this is the important one, that all of these characteristics given of Kali Yuga and some of the other yugas are mentioned there also, that these do not necessarily or solely represent the age in time that we live in, means this present circumstance. They actually manifest themselves in an individual's heart. Means that anyone in whom these characteristics are predominant, these ones are said to be living in a Kali Yuga within themselves. So, what this means is that at any one point in time, right now, we can experience all the four yugas as we interact with different characters in our lives. Kali Yuga, Sat Yuga, Treta, Dwapar, these are our internal mental states. And so all of these characteristics are given to describe, if this describes your lifestyle, you are in Kali Yuga inside yourself. But if you have better characteristics, then internally you live at a different level. The beauty of this is that it means don't lose hope. It means that we may not be able to change the physical, external environment in which we were born. but we can certainly change our internal world. Many of us, when we learn of the four yugas initially, we think, oh, what poppies we must be to still be living in this age of Kali. Why were we not liberated before this? What does this say about our character? These thoughts enter our mind. The Tulsidas Ji explains here in Ramayana, he says, don't think like this. That Kali Yuga just represents an internal state. And if internally you have found yourself at a higher level, then you don't belong to Kali. So it means that even though externally we cannot change our world, internally we can become the embodiments of Satyuga, even whilst amongst the Kalis in our life. We see this also in this prasanga with Hanumanji, where the attitude of those demons who were jabbing insults at Hanumanji as he was bound and being paraded around, it simply represented the internal Kali Yuga, which was there in their characters. But it also shows why Hanumanji was able to remain so unperturbed by the entire situation. Because Hanumanji resided in his own internal Satyuga. It said there, Suddha Sattva Samata Vijnana, Krita Prabhava Prasanna Mana Jana. That Shuddha Sattva, the presence of absolute Sattva, that harmony, Samata Vijnana, that evenness of mind, spiritual insight, vivacity of our heart. These are the effects of Satyuga. If we have these characteristics in ourselves, we are residing in our own Satyuga, just as Hanumanji. Hanumanji's mind rested in that equanimity of Sattva, and therefore he possessed that steadiness of heart to endure all of the insults, to endure all circumstances that life would throw, for the sole purpose of achieving Bhagwan's work. This is how we become masters of our life, regardless of what adharmic situation or what prarabdha may send for us. Close our eyes and find that sattva within us. Bring that satyuga alive within each of us, and every circumstance now we will begin to see Bhagwan's hand in it, instead of the negativities that can possibly surround us. No matter what insults may be thrown at us, like those demons threw insults, I know what I need to achieve in life, like Hanumanji did. And so I can keep my composure and I continue on. As Swami Vivekananda just said, stop not until the goal is reached. When I have that sattva within myself, I can bring forth my internal satyuga and stay strong and achieve the goal. It means now, what's the advice being given here? Do our sadhanas diligently. It means allow your mind to come to that state of sattva, like Hanumanji, and let the world talk. You cannot stop people from talking. This we all fall prey to. But let them speak. We cannot stop them actually, especially in an age like Kali. At times, we will have to just let people be in their own internal Kali Yuga. Means forgive and forget. Because 90% of the people we may come into contact with outside of a satsang hall will be 90% illogical. Even if you try to show them logic or sense, they are not amenable to it. We cannot let this affect us. Hanumanji remained at that level, even whilst amongst all of the demons. Sometimes we have to forgive and forget, or if we can't do that, then just ignore. Be indifferent to the ones of lower thinking. Just forget it, because otherwise they will pull you out of your satyuga and bring you down to their kali. Don't let them do this. Forgive and forget. But in forgetting, this you need to understand correctly. Also, forgetting doesn't mean I'll just be normal with them now and let everything go back. Forget, but you have to be intelligently vigilant. Forgive and forget doesn't mean just let it all go. Gurudev's always be alert and vigilant. Maintain a very calm predisposition, but know now that you have been through it. But I will still say internally forgive and forget that thing. Why? Because forgiveness, we may think if I forgive them, then that gives them the right to continue acting in this way. And many times we say we're not going to forgive somebody for something because that will just give them a ticket to continue with their bad behavior. Understand the concept of forgiveness, actually. Forgiving somebody, number one, does not mean you have to go up to them and say, okay, I forgive you now. Forgiveness happens internally, actually. If someone has done something wrong, then Bhagwan will ensure that they suffer the appropriate consequences for that, whether you forgive them or not. Your forgiveness of them does not change the scenario and the laws of cause and effect. That if they have wronged you, they will get the appropriate result from that. Then what does your forgiving do? See, your forgiveness does not excuse their bad behavior, but your forgiveness will prevent their behavior from ruining your heart. Unless we forgive and we forget, put that out of your mind, then that negativity will continue to go round and round in your mind and it will pull you down. It will do you no good. So, whether you forgive by telling them externally or you forgive just internally, that forgiveness becomes a very important part of the growth process for yourself. You forgive and you forget. Only then you can move past it. And Bhagwan will take care of their cause effect relationships. Don't worry. It does not excuse them from the results of their actions, but it will help you to rise. Again, don't be unwise after that. What? Appropriately now. Sattva, this age of Satyuga, when we can find ourselves internally there, our sattva becomes so high that it allows us this ability to forgive and to move past things. Remain established in that internal sattva Hanumanji is showing us. So now Hanumanji is there, hail on fire, parading around the entire city. And he says, okay, now it's time. So he calls on all of the elements now. He says, God of wind, God of fire, Agni Devata, Varuna Devata, Vayu Devata, you ready now? It's time for us to do the Lord's work. See what happens after this. Hanumanji is moving through that city now. He says, okay, this is the prime position. Immediately, he shrinks down to a diminutive size. And with this, all his bandages and all of his shackles fall off of him. He springs up now to the attic of that golden palace. And at that very moment, impelled by the gods of the winds, all 49 Maruta Devatas, they impel those winds to begin to gust and bluster. What happens to fire when wind picks it up? It just takes off. Hanumanji now grew to a gargantuan size, and that fire on his tail now also mushroomed into a huge size. In his colossal form, but very nimble, he now jumped, springing from one rooftop to the other, and at each point the fire catches on. The flames burst forth now under the influence of those winds as the Maruta Devatas help this circumstance. And before long, the entire city is under siege. But no one can do anything to avert the disaster. Agni Devata and Vayu Devata conspired along with this envoy of the Lord. And so the city was now consumed in these raging tongues of fire. Hanumanji, however, remained protected, unscathed by the scorching dharmas of fire. Means the elements worked in his favor to help this work to be accomplished, but they also protected him. That even though he was the one carrying this fire, he was also protected from being scorched by the fire. When the Lord's work is our sole purpose in life, then everything will fall into place. And as we witnessed here, even the elements will accede to the successful unfoldment of Bhagwan's work. And this is how Hanumanji escaped unscathed, because he was the messenger of him who created fire itself. This is why it said, Shraddhatva Somya, have faith. The Lord will see us through everything that he brings us to. Even when we feel our tail or our head is on fire, Bhagwan himself will ensure that everything you are protected once you stand for Dharma. We see this also in a second way. Vibhishana's house was the solitary structure that remained standing when all of the flames blasted forth. His house remained unburnt. Means when you stand for dharma, the entire world may be burning around you. You will escape unscathed. Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. Dharma protects those who uphold dharma. At this point, Bhagavan Shivaji, who's iterating this entire story to Parvati Ma, he turns to Parvati Amma and he reveals a very pertinent truth on dharma. He says, Sadhu avagya kar phala aisa. Sadhu avagya kar phala aisa. Jarai nagar anat ghar jaisa. He says, Sadhu avagya kar phala aisa. That this is the phala, such is the consequence of despising and disrespecting a noble soul when they come to your court in your presence. That the entire city now was being consumed by fire, as though Jarai Nagara Anatha Karajaisa, as though that city had no nath, it had no master, no leader. It was just being burnt to ashes and no one could save it. Imagine a master as powerful as Ravana, and he had to stand there, one who had conquered all of the devatas. He had conquered the directions, and now he stood there helpless, unable to save his entire fortress as it burnt. What do we see in this? Through ignoble deeds, many people will accrue a lot in life, just like Ravana, but it is a ticking time bomb. Many times in life we question Bhagwan and we say, but how is it possible in Bhagwan's fair world that a person is allowed to thrive after all of the wrong things that we know he has done? You just have to have faith. You hold on. That's all. Some punyas are there. That's all. It's being exhausted. Means even when someone does wrong things, they have some right mindset in between also. Someone may have extortion. They may miss accrue money from different sources that are dharmic. Their mindset behind it, part of it may be, I want my children to have the best because I was poor and I suffered and I built my kingdom. So now I want my children to have the best. So in one way, they are fulfilling their dharma as a good householder. In majority of way, they're doing the wrong thing, right? But the point is, some little punya will still accrue from these negative activities that they are doing also. Some merits will come on the strength of their purva janma also. You will see evil ones, so to speak, that are advancing in life. But the point is, even though they may seem to be living in Swarga at that point, that punya will have to be exhausted. The laws of karma siddhanta are inescapable. And though others may live in Swarga, it's hold on and give them time. Eventually, they will all have to come back down to earth. Shrine punya martya lokam vishanti, as Bhagwan says in Bhagavad Gita. That at some point, that prarabdha will catch up. Ravana's prarabdha was swiftly catching up to him. Hanumanji, now we see from this prasanga that Ravana's prarabdha at this point, standing there as master of his city, he could do nothing to stop what was about to happen. He stood there and watched his entire city burnt. And the envoy of the Lord, Hanumanji, was the one who was able to triumph, even in Ravana's own circumstance, in his own city. Hanumanji now jumped into the ocean, quenched his tail, and relieved his fatigue. His job has been accomplished, and he now says it's time to go back and deliver message to Bhagwan Sri Rama. But before returning, he seeks Sitama's blessing and her company one last time. So before his departure, he goes to Sitama. There, she bequeathed him that crown jewel from her head as a token of proof to be taken back to Bhagwan Sri Rama and the others, as a form of proof that he had achieved his task, that he had met her, and that he was bringing back correct message. He consoled her one more time, reassuring her of what would unfold next. There will be sun, and then, like that unerring shaft of Bhagwan Sri Rama, he shot off now, leaving Lanka behind burning, leaving Sita Ma in eager apprehension at what would come next, and directly reaching back now to that shore where all of the monkeys awaited. His success was now achieved. That the monkey saw him approaching. In that distance, just the glow of his character, his countenance itself delivered the news of success. Without any words, they knew Hanumanji had achieved his task. These dohas and chaupa is very beautiful. You see how the monkeys were just in sheer glee as they saw how Hanumanji was approaching back. It says here, हर्षे सब बिलो के हनुमाना नूतन जन्म कपिन तव जाना मुख प्रसन्न तन तेज विराजा कीन्हे सि रामचंद्र कर काजा मिले सकल अति भय सुखारी तलफत मीन पाव जिसि भारी चले हर्षि रघुनायक पासा पूछत कहत नवन इतिहासा तब मु तब मधुबन भीतर सब आए अंगद सन्मत मधुपल खाए रखवारे जब पर जन लाजे मुष्टि प्रहार हनत सब भाजे जाई पुकारे ते सब बन उचार जो भाज सुनि सुग्रीव हर्ष कपि करी आए प्रभु काज सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय उमापति महादेव की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय. So it says when the monkeys saw Hanumanji approaching, the shine of his body, his mere countenance, showed them that at that point they knew without a doubt that Ramakaja, the work of Bhagwan Sri Rama, had been achieved. In hosts, they welcomed him back and they said, let us proceed now. We have to go and deliver this message to Sugriva that we have achieved this task. Now, a hilarious episode happens here where they are on their way back to the kingdom of Sugriva. And what happens? What they are met with before they enter into Sugriva's kingdom is Sugriva's huge garden, all luscious fruits. And imagine they have been out for so long to have all of these beautiful fruits and vegetables before them now, before they enter into the palace. They decide they are going to ransack this entire garden and they begin to enjoy, eat all of the fruits, just as Hanumanji did in Lanka. Sugriva's guards are so perturbed by this. They run to Sugriva. They said, what has happened? This is your own troops. They are ransacking your entire garden. What is happening here? Sugriva said, they're back. I didn't know. And he said, oh, and they are ransacking my garden. Very good. I'm happy to hear this. See, Sugriva knew in that point. He said, if they had not achieved their task, they would not have dared to touch my precious garden. The fact that they are rewarding themselves, they're enjoying and eating, it means all is well. Bhagwan's task has been achieved. And so happily he said, leave them, let them do what they want. You know, as parents, even all of you know, when child comes home with that report card at the end of the term, and they say, Ma, full A's, I've aced everything. Can I go out and play? You say, sure, you go and play. They know their curfew's 1 hour of playing. They play 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Father reaches home, says it's 6 o'clock in the evening. Why are they still outside playing? You say, Leave them. Let them play. They have earned it. So similarly, so Sugriva, he saw his children playing outside. He said, leave them. They have earned it. So this happy point, this story is now coming to culmination, where these monkeys will, in great joy and ecstasy, deliver the message of their success. That now we know where Sitama is. Now we are going to achieve our task. Let us set forth. The final part of the prasanga here in Sundarkand is coming. We will enter into it next week, where the message is delivered to Bhagwan Sri Rama, and he blesses Hanumanji for this great task which has been achieved. After this, they will proceed now to Lanka Kand. The war and so on will ensue. But in our journey from Kishkinda Kand into Sundar Kand, this is the final story on Hanumanji's glory and Hanumanji's story as we go through. So join us next week where we will see the culmination, the grand finale of what we've been going through these past few months together, this journey of the Mahima of Hanumanji throughout our Kishkinda and Sundarkand. So we'll close here for today. And please, everyone, join next week. Final episode before we go on. So let's close. वीरमारुते गम्भीरमारुते वीरमारुते गम्भीरमारुते वीरमारुते रथिधीरमारुते गीतमारुते सङ्गीतमारुते दूतमारुते रामदूतमारुते भक्तमारुते परमभक्तमारुते वीरमारुते गम्भीरमारुते 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 ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ हरि ओम everyone